And we are live for the Steelers Depot Monday live stream. As always, Alex Kozora here alongside Dave Bryan, here to answer any and all of your Steelers questions for the next hour, 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And I'm sure there was a lot on your guys' mind after the Steelers' terrible 41-10 loss to the Bengals on Sunday, dropping Pittsburgh to now 5-1 on the season. So, Dave, how you doing?
I'm doing okay, all things considered. Watching the all 22 and all, but I'll make it.
I will as well. So if you guys could ask as many questions as possible, Dave and I will try to get to as many as we can. And if you want to get to the front of the line, you can send us a super chat as well, and we'll answer that question as soon as it comes in or right about there. I'm actually having a bit of a weird issue trying to pull up the live chat here. So give me 1 second. I apologize. It's not coming up here like it normally does. So just give me 1 second. I'll vamp and then we'll start with your guys' questions. But Dave, just give me some initial and kind of just overarching thoughts on this Bengals game. Okay, that's I was not ready for that.
Oh, okay. Oh, you mean deeper analysis?
A little bit.
Look, I think Mike Tomlin said it best. You getting blown off. You lose the trenches on both sides of the football, and until you get that solved, there's not much. There's no reason to talk about much anything else. Now, obviously, there's a lot more noticeable on with the defensive side of the ball, but offense, and with the offense, obviously too. Look, they haven't been able to run the football. I mean, they've had some good success rates, at times, but you're rewarding them or you're thanking them for getting basically 4 yards on those carries there, because we just don't see any big explosive runs, whereas you turn around and it just felt like with Mixon in that game on Sunday, it was 6 yards, it was 7 yard,
Right.
it was that I had some audio clicked in here. I'm sorry about that, but 6, 7, 8, 9 yards, and then obviously they had two explosive plays in that, or three explosive plays in that game, and two of them were running plays, and that's stealing anytime you get an explosive play on the ground there. So look, and until you get these lines solved and all, and can stop the run and be able to run, you're going to continue to get what you get, and none of this stuff's going to get fixed overnight, I
Right.
don't think.
Agreed. Just not physical enough in either trenches. Steelers offensive line, Steelers defensive line. You lose a trench battle, you're going to lose most of those games unless your offense is super special or your defense is really potent in terms of takeaways. And neither has been the case for the team this season. So I have the chats up now. I apologize for that delay. We'll start with our first question. Here comes from Zachary Prospa, who says, "Say the Steelers end up drafting Linderbaum next year in 53. Kendrick Green moves to guard. Do you push him to right guard or flip him and Dotson to be back at their college position?" So obviously, that's a big domino effect there. A lot of things would have to happen, obviously, for that question to come into play. Well, I guess just one, drafting Linderbaum, but that's such a far out question, Zachary, that it's hard for me to think about right now. I'm certainly not doing that right now. My inclination, though, generally speaking, is to move as few guys as possible along an offensive line, even knowing you would have an offseason in this scenario. So I know that Dotson played exclusively right guard at Louisiana, but I would probably keep him at left guard and move Kendrick Green to right guard. But I mean, you could go either way because Green played left guard in college and Dawson played right guard in college. So I don't know if there's a bad decision there. I just think the overall idea of moving Green to guard probably isn't a very good one in the first place. And to the actual specific question, that's such a far away answer that I don't think about it too much right now.
I mean, yeah, here we are. Well, we already getting into that. I
I
mean,
mean,
it's
after the performance yesterday, it's hard not to think about the draft a little bit more.
I mean, look, I've watched. I don't know a lot about the offensive lineman, obviously, in this draft, but I know Linderbaum, and I've watched some of his stuff already on the Iowa tape, and I mean that guy. You want to talk about a guy that plays like he belongs, on the Steelers? It's him. But
Hmm.
man, you want to talk about taking a big L, in my opinion, for the Steelers if they have to already go the route of kicking Green to the outside. I don't think you. I think you can hide him the easiest at center, and
Right.
I think you're asking for it if you move him to guard. But obviously, I mean, I don't know which way you do on that. To me, it would be a big L if you have to go about drafting another center so soon. Now, I don't know about the prospects, and maybe I think Linderbaum's played pretty much his entire career at center, so I don't know
Right.
if there's any chance of maybe making him a guard or something, and then maybe moving forward from there. But I mean, we'll obviously see, but I think it's way, way. And here's the thing too: if you pick early enough, way it looks like the Steelers are going to pick, the interior linemen get is shat a word? SHAT? Shat on?
Yeah, I think so.
Interior offensive linemen get shat on early in drafts as well. Centers and guards. Those guys usually get pushed down to the bottom end. So I would think if you're going to be picking a little bit higher in the draft, which things seem to be trending that direction, you would probably go a direction other than an interior offensive lineman.
Yeah, but if
But
that's
that's
your if
way out
that's yeah,
there.
but if that's your need and what needs to be addressed, and Linderbaum certainly seems to be warranting that top 10-ish type picks, then I think you take him and say whatever the draft history says, be damned. But I think maybe if you draft Linderbaum, you would try to move him to right guard instead of moving Green to right guard. But again, that is so far down the road. Next question comes from Shoes Guns Cars Gaming 0112. Dave, I agree that Devin Bush is playing horrible, but you have pushed the narrative so hard that a lot of fan base believes every negative defensive play is his fault. I don't think that's on Dave. I think that's just naturally from where the fan base has been at, before anything else. I think Dave's been correct about the issues since, week 3, and it just, not blaming Bush for every single thing. I don't think Dave takes responsibility for that. I think Bush is playing poorly, but I don't think that Dave has ever said that it's all his fault. And if other fans are saying that, and certainly they are, that has nothing to do with what Dave has said. I don't think so.
No, no. In fact, look, I tried to point out, I tried to make sure I highlight, Jonathan Heitrader did the film room on him what was it, last week? And I tried to make sure to point out, man, that guy can still shows the athleticism and the burst and all as far as that goes. And no, I mean, I think I've made it several times clear on the podcast that it's not all his fault. Look, there are more issues to this defense than just one Devin Bush in the middle. Joe Schobert's obviously not playing well. They've had issues at defensive tackle that they've gone out now and they've signed Montrevious Adams off the practice squad of the Saints. How normally the Steelers are the ones that are getting their practice squads pilfered at this time of year. That shows you how bad it is that the Steelers are the ones doing the pilfering at this point. It sounds like to me, and excuse my French here, but the commenter there is just getting a little upset that maybe his narrative's getting ruined along the lines here because Bush is not playing well at all, and I'm just making sure that people see it. And but it's the defense is the problems the defense has includes Bush, but it's
Right.
not solely on Bush.
Yeah, if Dave never said a word about Devin Bush, I promise you the fan base would still have the pitchforks out, and a lot of that is warranted. Bush is not playing well at all, but I agree that the narrative that everything is his fault is incorrect. But that's not something that's been pushed solely or driven. We've tried to actually, I think, pull in the reins a bit on that a little bit and say that there are certainly other issues and issues to go far deeper. I talked about an article this morning about the loss of Tyson Alualu and the impact that's had on this team. So I think we've tried to actually steer away from that idea more than other outlets. Next question comes. Actually, we have a super chat here I want to get to from Mutated Genome. So thank you so much. Good to hear from you. MG says, would Spillane play any worse than either starting inside linebacker? I know he injured a knee. Just bringing up my question from 2 weeks ago. Now, same question, but substitute Spillane with Buddy Johnson. Yeah, I mean, I said last week before the Bengals game, I would play Spillane and base at the very least over Devin Bush and keep Bush probably in just nickel packages, considering Spillane plays in dime as well. If Spillane's healthy, healthy enough to play, then I'm playing him over Devin Bush. I would not play Buddy Johnson right now defensively. Maybe get him a hat to dress on special teams, but I'd rather play Marcus Allen or UG3, especially with a really tough team and a tough scheme like the Ravens have, that Greg Roman has for this week. So certainly, I'm looking to make a change there. If Spillane's healthy, then I'm all for it, and if not, then I'd look for Marcus Allen or UG3.
You got to have somebody willing to play downhill a little bit more willingly.
Yeah, especially against the Ravens, it's a requirement.
Right. Right, and look, if you don't beat the Ravens, none of it's going to matter. You might as well get some people some snaps at that point because I mean they need a modern miracle right now. And if you lose to the Ravens on Sunday, and it's already kind of looks like it's unfortunately trending that we'll see what happens with TJ Watt. But man, you want to talk about having to play a game without him on top of it, and already you're probably going to have to play a lot of zone in that game once again because you just can't turn your back to Lamar Jackson. And It's just, I mean,
Right.
this isn't setting up to be good at all. But I would try to find something to do other than play Bush as much as they're playing him right now.
Yeah, TJ Watt has a path to return. You can't rule him out for Sunday, but the odds of him getting back are low. With Minka Fitzpatrick, Ray McLeod, both guys placed on COVID on Mondays. They missed the following game. So the history says you miss about 10 days, even for the vaccinated players. And so that puts Watt unlikely to play on Sunday. Question here from John Horvat, two of them, says, how much longer will the Presley Harvin experiment continue? He has the occasional great booming punt followed by three shanks. I think it's a bit of an overstatement, but I get the point you're making there, John. Dave, your thoughts on Presley Harvin the third?
Man, I would thought he would have been better than he's been. I'll tell you that. I obviously didn't expect him to lead the league in net average or just regular punting distance, that kind of stuff. I mean, if there's been a positive in anything, it's been his holding.
Yeah, it's actually
Yeah,
legitimately been good. Credit to him for it.
right. It's been really, really good, I think. And look, he is a rookie and all like that. And but you look at what's going on with Jordan Berry. I think's outperforming him from
Hmm.
what I can tell so far this season there. And for you to and look, I mean, a 6 round pick's a 6 round pick, right?
Yeah, but
Uh,
punters, it's not like it's a running back. He punters fourth round
right.
is usually the top end that those guys go.
Right, right. I mean, like several other in this class right now. That's you don't throw them out with the bathwater right now.
Yeah.
So you kind of suffer through them, and maybe through the off season and on. You get into game 6 or 7 next year, and that's when you're able to make a firmer diagnosis and all like that. But it has been a little bit of a letdown, sure.
Yeah, I think he gets the rest of this year for sure. You bring him into camp next year and evaluate from there. So I think you start if he still struggles by preseason camp of next season, then maybe you think about making a change that early. Because punters just their leash is pretty thin, and I hate the in season punter replacement. I mean, if it happens, it happens. But new punter, new holder, I don't love doing that. I mean, I look at that kid from who's that kid from San Diego State that just is
Oh
like
boy,
booming.
yeah.
I look at him and go, man, maybe this was. I think Pittsburgh could have waited just one more year with Jordan Berry. Maybe you would have taken the San Diego State kid. That guy's probably going to go, fourth round or something like that. But that kid is awesome to watch.
You get me fired up. Want to talk about some Mountain West
Yeah, I
football
figured
here,
this has been
man?
on your radar, right? You watched some Aztec football. I'm guessing this year.
Yeah, look, I don't know where it came from all of a sudden, but I get fired up to watch some Mountain West football right now. All of it, man. There's that Utah State wide receiver as well. Too. There's going to be some good talent coming out of the Mountain West, I think, in this year's draft. And I think you're going to be able to see a lot of it when you and the guys go down there for the Senior Bowl and all like that. So yeah, that guy can place kick, he can punt, he can do all of it, and he's out of this world.
Hmm. John also says, just the thought Cincinnati likes to match bodies with bodies. I was confused as to why we didn't see Pittsburgh exploit that by coming out in heavy and then going empty. Did I miss something? No, you didn't miss it, John. They did come out heavy, I think 5 times in that game. Had no success running the football at a heavy. I don't know why that was the game plan. Did not work the first matchup, did not work the second matchup. So, I mean, nothing really worked too well for the run game. But if you look at the distribution, this team about doubled the success in 11 personnel running the football than they had in 12 and 13 personnel trying to pound the rock. So I'm not sure why that's their game plan when the Bengals always go 5 defensive linemen against 12, 13 personnel, just running into a brick wall. One of several kind of confounding coaching staff decisions in this game on top of the actual poor play itself.
Well, they didn't get much chance to run the football. I mean, this thing got out of hand in a
Sure.
hurry
But when they
in
did,
the
it
first
was
point.
still it was still poor.
I sure would have liked to seen them try to be able to been able to lean on more consistent. I'm not saying that the outcome would look. They can't run. Period. They can't run out of 11. They can, they can't run out of any of it. It seems
Right.
right now at this point here. 4 yards in a cloud of tire pellets. Right now. That's it.
But they were better out of 11 running on Sunday than they were out of 12. Now, sample sizes were small and ultimately didn't matter because, as you said, second half, you're not running the ball really much at all. But I do want to at least note that. And I just don't understand the principle of it, even if ultimately it didn't make much of a difference. Next question comes from Knoxley. Good to hear from you, Knoxley. Hey, guys, do you think the Steelers put too much stock in special teams for backups and struggle when injuries occur because of it, or just doing a bad job of building out the bottom of the roster? I get what you're saying there. I mean, I think every team values special teams, maybe Pittsburgh a bit more, but I mean, it's been such an asset for this team. You think about the block punts and how important that was to basically help win you that game week one, and got you back, was the catalyst for getting back into that game and nearly winning it against the Chargers in week 11. I think about, defensive line depth. That's not a special teams issue because your defensive linemen don't play a big role on special teams. There are rarely any core special teams type of players along the D line in the NFL. So that's just kind of where you've been decimated, unfortunately, by some serious injuries up front with Stephon Tuitt and Tyson Alualu. So I get what you're saying, but short answer, I would probably say no to that.
What about, do they put too much emphasis in special
Yes.
teams?
Right.
I mean, it's just something. Look, I mean, a lot of teams do that around the league. I mean, it's just not specific to the Steelers. Now, do the Steelers probably emphasize it more than half of the league? Sure, I think so. But I mean, it's something they do, and you see though. I mean, that's effectively won them a couple of games this year, right?
Right.
Or at least kept them. The game against the Bills, that was a huge turning point in
Hmm.
that game. And then fast forward to the Chargers game. I mean, if they would have come back and won that game, that obviously that block punt would have played a big part in that as well too. So, I mean, you need those kind of people at the bottom end of your roster for sure.
Yeah. I had a comment here from Steelers Freak who says the all 22 is equivalent to watching baby seal clubbings on YouTube. I guess that's a good way to sum that up. Jonathan Mason says, I know Bush
I
has.
think you always learn something from it, though.
Sure.
I mean, it's a highlight. You flip that thing on. You if you have the VLC player and have it set up right and all like that. I mean, you can really go in a hurry and back up and just bounce around however you like. So, I mean, yeah, the overall quality of the content at times, especially this year, isn't great, but it's still I still view it as an enjoyable experience.
Sure, some weeks are better than others, and this is not one of those weeks, though, unfortunately. Jonathan Mason, I know Bush has been bad, but he looked promising his rookie season. It looks lack of desire to me, not inability. Think he's just lost interest. Moats alluded to this on his show today. That's such a tough thing for
I
me.
said that the other day, and people came after. I got a nasty email about that, but whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I rarely comment on those things because you just don't know what's in a player's head, and I think that's such a big accusation to make, to say that a guy doesn't care or the lack of effort isn't there. I mean, sometimes it's obvious on tape, but it's so hard for me to say that, not knowing the person. So I generally refrain from that, but that does not obviously absolve Bush's, severe struggles right now, which continue, if anything, continue to actually get worse as the season goes on.
And let's back up to his rookie year as well too. People have a kind of he had an okay rookie season. It's not,
Hmm.
let's not put him in the Pro Bowl or the make him all pro for that. I mean, it was part of the process. I mean, he had his warts for sure during his rookie season, but it was enough there to make you say, okay, all right, developing and all. And look, I mean, you get into his second season, there was that talk about they really wanted him to be able to take control and be quarterback of that defense and all. And the whole green dot thing now obviously got hurt, and 6 games into the season. But I don't even think before his knee injury there, he might not have been progressing as much as they'd liked him to, especially from him just being the quarterback of the defense side of things.
Yeah, I do think in the 5 games last year there was real progression. I think his rookie year was just meh. As you said, it was just an average rookie season. But I thought he was genuinely getting better before the ACL tear in 2020, and then obviously this year. Again, I think the best game he played was against the Bills, and it just kind of gotten worse from there. So, to me, though, can I say that's a lack of effort? That's such a harsh thing to accuse somebody of, that I can't go to that place, and I'm not going to go to that place right now. I will have a clip though about Deontay Johnson in effort on one play tomorrow though, so just keep an eye out on that one. I have a super chat here from Carmichael, the sports guru, who says Tomlin D is trash without a legit slot corner in all caps. I don't know what to do with that information, Carmichael. I think the issues run deeper than that, but there's no question the loss of Mike Hilton was a big one. We knew that at the time, and certainly Pittsburgh felt that yesterday with not having him out there and getting the pick six by Hilton against them late in that first half.
Yeah, I mean, it goes a lot deeper than just Devin Bush or just not. I mean, it's a it's a culmination of a lot of things here. Look, you don't have Tyson Alualu, you don't have Stephon Tuitt. Those are two huge losses up front for sure. And then you throw in Bush playing the way he's playing, and Schobert, obviously not going to make any Pro Bowl list or All Pro list this year, and you've missed Hayden a couple of games here. James Pierre's had his struggles. So I mean, it's more than just one thing for sure in there. And I think we both agreed that we thought that the defense was going to take a step backwards this year. But I don't think I ever imagined it being this big a step, especially not against a run too. I mean, they are miserable against the run, and if you can't stop the run, there's no sense even going too much further past that right
Yeah.
now. So this unit's in trouble, and once again, it's not going to get fixed overnight here.
Yeah, it's not, unfortunately, and so the injuries are certainly you didn't expect and anticipate, but I think it starts up front in the trenches, and this team's been built around a good run D. That's how it's been built for since Noel got here, essentially, and
I
that's
mean,
kind of the foundation of
Ty,
it.
and Tyson too, man. You go back and you think of those last couple of seasons, and you even had a stat too, right? Of Tyson when he was on the field, and I think people
I'll pull it
also
up.
forget it. I think people also forget of how good a season Stephon Tuitt had in 2020.
Yeah, 11 and a half sacks. I mean, both were huge, but I think the value of Tyson Alualu in that middle just really kind of sums things up well. And the article's not coming up for some reason, but yeah, I mean, there's been a direct correlation between Alualu getting hurt and missing time, and obviously missing all but 5 quarters of the season, and the Steelers' run defense, which now ranks 31st in football. I don't know how they're not last. Minnesota's somehow worse, but
Right.
both the Steelers' run defense has been just abysmal. So. Next question here is a draft question from James. James, I don't think Dave and I are deep enough to answer, this or that or either or type of questions right now. So I apologize. Chris B says, "What's up, all? Still Pittsburgh Steelers for life." Appreciate that, Chris. Appreciate you being here. If you guys could like the stream, that would certainly help us out as well. Get some more people into the chat. David Kapoor says, "Did you all think that maybe Ben threw his last pass ever after he got sacked on his elbow late in the game?" No, I didn't think that. It looked like he might have been hurt, but I didn't. I probably had flashbacks to 2019 for sure, but I didn't get that sense, David. No.
Well, I thought he was hurt. I thought he was hurt a lot more than the next scene you see him over there on the sideline looking at the tablet. So that was a huge relief there, and all. I didn't necessarily think that was his last pass, but I thought he got dinged up pretty good on that one for sure.
Yeah, and then obviously they kept Ben in the whole game, which is a topic for maybe later in the stream. Let's see. Next question comes from Steelers country. Are Loudermilk and Freiermuth better than you anticipated, Dave? How would you answer that? And I know where you're at on Freiermuth. Where are you at on Loudermilk?
I mean, it's still a small sample size
Sure.
overall. I think on Loudermilk there. I mean, I think we said in a podcast the other day there that I think he's playing a lot more than what any of us imagined him playing, and that obviously being due to Alu and Tuitt not playing, and then obviously they've had the other issues on defensive line as well too. He's had his moments, but I mean on the flip side you go back to the preseason too. You can see him get turned out of some gaps there. So the biggest thing with him at this point is he's got that prototypical size. And look, I mean, one of the things that Alex and I talked about during the offseason too is at least on paper leading up to the draft, there only seem to be like two of those ideal body types that the Steelers go after when it comes to those 4i and those 5 tech types there. Had we had a better sense of what the real measurables maybe on Loudermilk were, then we probably could have foreseen that coming a little bit better. But
Hmm.
but we didn't. In fact, I mean, we usually pride ourselves on having write-ups on 90% of the draft class to throw up right after the draft, and I don't think we had one on Loudermilk because I think we kind of viewed him more as a little bit uh smaller body type and all. But I mean, he is the ideal body type. You can obviously see why the Steelers drafted him. And now, one of the biggest chores for him, I think, going into the offseason, got to get stronger and obviously learn the system a little bit more and all like that, and then see where he's at six or 7 games into next season there to see if he can become more of a starter or if he's just going to be kind of that rotational guy for you.
Yeah, I mean, he was semi on my radar. I thought he had the size. He was in my mock off season. Has like a pretend priority free agent. The issue with Loudermilk of why he wasn't on my radar to the extent of what it ultimately became was because I thought he's like a free agent, like an undrafted free agent kind of guy. He got a knee injury, he didn't play that much. Wisconsin, his tape wasn't incredible. And the Steelers had good defensive line depth overall because you at that time you had Tyson Alualu, you had Stephon Tuitt, you had Wormley, you had Bugs, even Mondo was floating around there at the time, and so you kind of felt like this team wasn't going to address that position too highly. But short answer for Loudermilk and Freiermuth, I think both guys have played better than I anticipated, not significantly so. They're about as advertised. I think Loudermilk has shown growth and improvement with leverage and holding the point of attack and things like that, and Freiermuth just being a more involved guy in the pass game, a more that rookie curve has not affected him as much as it does a lot of rookie tight ends. Maybe that's because he was more of a well-rounded guy coming out, played with his hand down and things like that. But yeah, I think both guys have played well and better than I anticipated.
I mean, he's got 140 defensive snaps, I think, right now. Let me see if that counts.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, that counts the game against the Bengals as well too. And if you go back to Cameron Hayward's rookie season, what did I say it was? 260,
Yeah,
261 back when Cameron Hayward was obviously a first round draft pick, but and now that was under the Dick LeBeau regime, which your rookies you just don't see the field on defense unless you can really help it. And that, I'm willing to bet that was the course of action with Loudermilk, at least initially there. But injuries and all have resulted in him having to play more snaps. So I mean, there's just not a large sample size of there now. 6 games left. Let's say he gets, I don't know what, 20 snaps a game. So we should have another. I don't know, we should have 250 snaps on him by the end of the season, I reckon.
yeah, he'll play a lot, and definitely looking interested to see his growth and development the rest of the way. Got a super chat here from Muhammad Al Ali says, "Hey guys, love the channel and podcast. You got to bring back Tyson Wright, especially with the possibility of lack of draft capital. He signed a 2 year. Yeah, he's under contract for next season, so he'll be back, assuming he doesn't retire, and hopefully healed up. And they certainly could use him. And the stats I have up on the screen right now that kind of show it's a bigger, broader stat, but yards per carry with him healthy last year, and then when he got hurt last year and played through an MCL sprain, an ankle sprain, and then compared to this year when he's been lost for all but 5 quarters, you can just see the increase with every step of the way from him healthy to him playing hurt to him not playing at all. And there's a direct correlation there between his availability and effectiveness versus the overall run defensive success from this team. Let's see. Next question will come from as I scroll back up through the super chat and appreciate you guys being here and hanging out with us after a terrible loss that most people don't want to relive too much. JXX, hi Alex and Dave. What are the chances Steelers draft the Pitt quarterback? They will probably be picking around 15. Also, first losing season for Tomlin. Dave, your thoughts on the odds of them drafting Kenny Pickett?
But if you believe Jay Glazer, and I do, Mike Tomlin doesn't want anything to do with a rookie quarterback. We've written and talked about this quite a bit. If you don't believe Jay Glazer, then I suppose there is if the Steelers stay right around, I think right now, as of right now, they're scheduled to pick 16th in the first round. That could get closer to that number might just lower by the time but we'll see how the final 6 games go here. Uh, here's my view on it after knowing what I know about the class so far, the draft class so far. I'll be pretty shocked if the Steelers draft a quarterback in the first round in 2022. It seems like it makes a lot more sense for this team if indeed this is it for Ben for them to kind of go the free agent route. So I buy what Jay Glazer's selling, and if indeed that's the truth, it's kind of hard to imagine, especially with this quarterback class. Uh, uh, I I think Kenny Pickett's a little bit overrated, quite honestly. To be honest with you, I think a lot of them in this class are overrated, and there's not a single one of them right now that I'd stand up on the table and pound to draft in the first round right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not
And
gonna.
that includes Carson Strong because
Right.
I'm a huge Carson Strong guy, but he doesn't have he can make all the throws and all like that. I think he has the best IQ of all the quarterbacks in this class. But I mean, you don't have that mobility, you don't have that ability to extend plays. I really think that's look what Lamar did on that touchdown pass that he threw yesterday. I mean, that kind of stuff, being able to go off script is huge. at this point when it comes to
Mhm.
quarterbacks in the NFL. And if you can't do that kind of stuff, you know, you better have the next Tom Brady.
Yeah, I'm not going to rule out entirely the odds of them drafting a quarterback in the first round, but I find it pretty unlikely, especially if and assuming they go after a veteran quarterback, some sort of quote unquote bridge option. You'll have that guy, you'll have Rudolph and Haskins returning as well. So I don't know if they're going to go after a rookie. Not that, Haskins' presence would preclude a team from drafting a quarterback who they were really high on, but I just don't see it as super likely right now, given the draft class and some of the reporting from Jake Glazer, as you mentioned. So, that's where I'm at. This person says, I want to know if the Steelers still have one of the smallest coaching staffs in the league. Appears like these players aren't getting enough or proper instruction with limited practice time. I'd have to do a deep dive into coaching staffs on that. So I don't have a great answer for that right now, to be honest with you, in terms of their coaching staff numbers versus the rest of the NFL.
Yeah, I don't know the way it compares or not. Yeah, I don't know.
Let's see. I don't know how to say it. I'll say T Attack says, "Do you guys still have faith in our leader and coach Mike T to pull this team out of the gutters and finish the season strong?" We'll wait and see. From a talent standpoint, are they just good enough to turn things around? Is certainly one question. But I'm not in the fire Mike Tomlin camp, and he will not be fired after this season. And we'll see. His teams in December the last couple of years have not been good enough. They've been, I think, 5-8 in December over the last 2, 3 years, I want to say 3 years or so. So this team certainly has to close out seasons better, and this schedule gets really difficult. So we'll see. But I'm not in the fire Tomlin camp here, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah, me either. Look, I mean, yeah, I mean, he doesn't certainly doesn't have the personnel so far. I mean, with all the injuries and all like that, and I mean, if indeed this ends up being his first losing season, I mean, yeah, I'll be shocked if Tomlin's not the head coach for at least the next 2 years. So we'll, obviously things can change, but I'm not in the fire Mike Tomlin crowd either.
Yeah. Jamison McLean with Juju Ebron likely leaving. Is it likely we'll draft a receiver in first or second round? Johnson, Claypool, Washington isn't strong enough. Well, Washington's going to be gone. Juju has a better chance to return than James Washington does at this point. I think he's seen the writing on the wall that he's not going to be super involved in this offense. But yeah, they certainly could draft a receiver. If Juju walks, I mean, you won't have anybody to really promote, and his team's been aggressive about drafting those day two receivers. So there'll be a lot of positions to fill for sure. This receiver class on the surface doesn't appear to be super top end heavy the way it has been in years past, but it's really good depth where it might have a lot of day two guys to pick from. So there's a chance of that for sure. Will it happen though? That depends on a million different variables that we can't predict quite yet.
Well, I certainly would like to see them draft a Z with some you know what speed,
Hmm.
But look, they didn't draft a wide receiver last year, right? And that's uncommon for them. So I with Washington almost certainly gone. I mean, I don't know what people think about Ray McLeod. It seems like you can upgrade that if you needed to. And Juju obviously not guaranteed to come back either. This team will. I'll go on record saying they will draft a wide receiver. I'm not necessarily convinced it would be in the first round or not, but anytime after that, if second, third round, fourth round, what have you, I really think it is possible for sure. And I would like to see them somebody that can stretch the field, uh, big time.
Yeah, for sure. Will they do that? I'm not quite sure, but I think they definitely need that infusion of speed. It doesn't even have to be necessarily like a top end guy. Like Nate Washington was that guy in Pittsburgh in the mid 2000s, mid late 2000s, and Cedric Wilson brought a little bit of that as well. They weren't star players, but they were good at what they did in terms of having that speed. So I'd love to see that presence be added in Pittsburgh. 100 people in the chat there. Appreciate that, guys. We're here till 8 p.m. Dave and I. You can watch this one after the stream, and if you want an archive version of it as well. Muhammad Al Ali says, when Ryan Clark said Mink is a fifth linebacker, it's sad, but I got a laugh out of that. I didn't hear the comment. That was probably this morning on his rant. I didn't get a chance to listen to that. But yeah, Mink has almost got as many tackles this year as he had all of last season. And when your safeties are making all the tackles, it's usually bad. It's a bad sign for your entire defense. It's got some Bengals
Yeah,
5 years ago feel.
you don't want your defensive backs having to make a lot of tackles for sure. That's just generally a bad sign.
Yeah. So is that the context of what Clark was talking about? Did you know what the
Yeah,
context
yeah,
there is?
just
Okay.
the run defense has been so bad. He's having to serve and be that extra linebacker there to get people on the
Right.
ground.
Back up to the questions here. Let me scroll back up. And oh, I'm holding back a sneeze. I apologize. I'm still a little under the weather, so I'm fighting through a little something, something. But we're all good. Corey says, Alex Kozora in all caps. How can the Steelers be less trash? I don't know how to answer that. Better in the trenches, better offensive line play, better defensive line play. If you run the ball better, stop to run better. That's a very obvious thing to say, but it's very true for this team. Kind of how this team's been built for a while, and where this team needed to be offensively. They knew the run game had to improve. It's gotten better overall compared to last year, but the last couple weeks certainly have not done the job they need to do. And defensively, it's been just a hot mess. And if you can't stop the run, then the whole idea about getting pressure and creating turnovers by putting teams in third and long and pass situations kind of goes out the window, as it did yesterday. So trench play is where it starts.
And this isn't going to fix itself by the
No.
time Baltimore
No.
rolls around, or by the time the Thursday against the Vikings and all like that. I mean, just hold on tight, and I think everybody can get the go ahead and make plans for Super Bowl non-Steelers related
Yeah.
type stuff. I think that's pretty safe at this point as well too. Look, I mean, yeah, it's kind of worrisome too. You look ahead into 2022. I know some people already are and all. I mean, what happens if you don't, for some reason, Tuitt doesn't come back? What happens if Tyson Alualu decides that he wants to retire? Is this team gonna have the confidence to make a decision to potentially maybe pull the plug on a Devin Bush here? Joe Hayden, what's going to happen with him during the offseason there? Terrell Evans, I mean, there is a lot, and
Hmm.
that's just on the defensive side of football there. So uh, there are more questions right now about this team as 2021 starts winding down and then on into 2022 than there are answers right now. So I think Alex hit on it best there. You just got to get the trench play better first and foremost. You got to be able to stop the run and be able to run the football, and then kind of go forward from there.
Yeah, as bad as it is, and as cynical as this will sound, this road does not get any easier for about the next year and a half at the minimum, because you have so many questions, as you said, and of course, who's going to quarterback this team next year, which is a total unknown as well. So this path is not this. There's no light at the end of the tunnel. It's not going to be any sort of like coming around until probably 2023 at the earliest, if I had to say.
I would agree with you. I think 2023 is the earliest right now you can have any optimism when it comes to maybe the Steelers, making the playoffs or making some sort of run at the very least. And that's not even knowing what the draft class and what the free agency situation looks like.
Yeah,
That might just be ambitious
yeah.
optimism on our side right here.
I compared in the offseason to kind of where the Patriots were at, where they had one just terrible year, transition type of year. Pittsburgh probably gets 1.5 out of that because, Ben didn't leave as early as Brady did. So you kind of go through this rough period this year, end of this year, and then you have a big transitional, season in 2022. And then hopefully if things go right, and that's if things go right, then you kind of start coming out the other side in 2023. Of course, finding a franchise quarterback will help, like the Patriots have appeared to have done with Mac Jones. But that's the overall idea and plan of it right now. Simon says, that's funny to say. Simon says, are we due a mid-season preview of what the upcoming offseason has to come yet, Dave? Apologies if we've missed one you've already done. So I think this is your free agent preview, your cap preview, et cetera, et cetera.
Oh no, I'm not even close to that just yet. There, I mean, usually right after the season starts, every year I kind of look ahead at the free agents, but I didn't get it. We had so much on our plate and all like that that I didn't even get around to that right now. So I mean, it's not even. Uh, I won't take a hard look at even at the cap situation until we start winding this thing down around week 16 and week 17, find out who's on the roster, find out how much of the cap space is going to roll over, that kind of thing there. But even so, you got a couple of variables, other variables in there. Once again, what's going to happen with Tuitt and things like that. So no, I'm not to that, but around week 17, obviously, season start winding down, that's when you look at that. You mentioned the Patriots, Alex.
Hmm.
Uh, their adjusted net yards per passing attempt number right now, defensively, is 4.3.
Wow, that's an incredible number.
I mean, that. when you have a defense playing like that, it helps offset
Hmm.
tremendously your inefficiencies of your passing game on the offensive side of football. And really, that's the only kind of look. Mac Jones, I think he's really played well. And kudos to you, Alex, because I mean, I think he was your top-rated quarterback
Hmm.
in that class there, though. But overall, when you look at adjusted net yards per passing attempt on the offensive side of football for them, I mean, it's not awful. It's 6.9. In fact, I didn't even know it was that high. So you have an adjusted net yards per passing attempt number over 6.5 when it comes to the Patriots, and you have a defensive number so as low as it is, under 5. I mean, any team
Well
can
under 5 too, huh?
yeah, I mean, any team can compete in the playoffs if you have a defense that good. And maybe a lot of people are underselling the Patriots right now. As long as they don't turn the football over, and if their defense keeps playing at the level, they're going to be a team to unfortunately watch contend with. And if Mac Jones gets any progresses, like obviously people will think they will, boy, it's not going to be fun to be a Steelers fan to sit back and
Yeah.
watch that. And as you said, really just, I guess, basically 1 year down, right?
Yeah, that's all it was for him. And yeah, their offense, it's not like there are a lot of known guys on that team. It's Kendrick Bourne, it's Myers, it's Johnny Smith and Henry at tight end, it's Harris and Stevenson. They just got a really good offensive line, with their big guys up front, and they're playing really good defense and taking care of the football, and Jones isn't having to do too much for him. So that's the recipe for success. And that's what Pittsburgh basically did. It's like Pittsburgh in 04, 05. I mean, that was kind of the blueprint. And the Patriots are replicating that here in 2021.
Name their wide receivers.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, it's Kendrick Bourne, it's Jacoby Myers. It's not any guys that are super, flashy names or household names or starters on your fantasy team, but they're just good, solid players with a good scheme, and that's what Belichick has done.
And you talk about the Steelers moving past this year, they have got to get that defense back to
Yeah,
uh back to supreme level. That's first and foremost. And then you can win with a below average quarterback as long as you have a running game and don't turn the football over if you have a stellar defense, which the Steelers obviously do not have right now.
yeah, and the run game is questionable at best, so they're missing a lot of those key components right now. Todd says that first pick by Ben seems to me if he led Claypool, it would have been 6 thoughts. Yeah, I mean, that's a tough one. It's just really unfortunate play. There was pressure there that maybe forced Ben to throw the ball a bit sooner than he wanted to. But I still don't get why he was throwing it back shoulder because by the time he releases that football, Claypool's already extended upfield. Like he's already got inside position on the corner. So I don't know what Ben was thinking and they're trying to throw that one back shoulder when he threw the football. Do you have anything insight there, Dave, on
No,
why that?
I went back and watched it. I don't. I mean, other than reading his comments and seeing exactly what you just described there, I mean, just a bad decision on his part. I don't know what he where he thought how he thought Claypool was even going to get close to that ball.
Yeah, I mean,
So
because generally on that wheel route, that's not usually a back shoulder throw, especially if the cornerback's not. If the cornerback's playing super inside leverage, then maybe it would be, but he's not playing inside leverage there. So I don't know what Ben would have thought in any situation why that would have been a back shoulder type of play. But
mhm.
yeah, very weird one for sure. Let's see. Next couple of questions here. Duncan McDonald says, "Hey Alex, have you heard anything on Tuitt? Is his availability for next year in question? Situation seems tight-lipped. Yeah, it's super tight-lipped right now. He's on IR, so there's no obligation for the team to report on his progress, whatever progress there is or is not being made. So, at this point, you cannot expect him to come back this season. Next year, hopefully, you would assume so, but I can't answer anything with certainty right now, given the just the lack of information about the situation.
I mean, it's so hard to even talk, any about him right now because we just don't know what's going on with him right now. So I mean, it's hard to even guess at this point when it comes to him.
Yeah. Muhammad Al Ali, another super chat. Appreciate it. Last super chat. Excited and scared for next year. That's a good way to sum things up. The unknown is always a bit exciting and always a bit scary. And Pittsburgh certainly heading into a great unknown, a new chapter, likely this offseason.
I would lower your expectations, whatever the. I would take your expectations and maybe cut it into about half when it comes to 2022 right now, because once again, there are a lot of there are more questions I think, especially on defensive side of the ball, than there are answers at this point. And Alu to it, you have to think, you know Hayden might be gone. I mean, and not a large selection of draft capital to
Right.
throw at this thing either. And boy, all of you listening, you say your rosary for Bud Dupree.
I was just gonna say that, yeah.
Because you want Bud Dupree to get healthy in a hurry and get back to playing some snaps so the Steelers can get that third round compensatory pick for him. And then on the flip side, say your rosary that Joe Haig doesn't have to play too many more snaps right now here. So if I'm the Steelers fans, that's where a lot of my focus is right now. Is hoping that Bud Dupree gets healthy and can play some snaps.
I'm gonna check here to see if Hake fell under the 25% mark for the season with him not playing. Okay, they've not updated the numbers yet according to PFR because he was at 34% heading into last week. So I don't know where he's at for the season, but yeah, the odds are that you'll still get a fifth round pick for Haig, but odds are that you'll probably only get a fourth round pick for Bud Dupree based on him coming back and the snaps he would have to play when he returns to qualify for a third round comp pick. Saloon says, and hopefully I pronounced that right. I apologize if I have been pronouncing that incorrectly. Says, "Good evening, Dave and Alex. Wonderful show as always. What's the biggest problem with the Steelers' offense? O line inability of the receivers to create separation. Ben or Matt Canada. Cheers from Brazil. Good to hear from you. I think it's a trench play. It starts with the overall offensive line, especially the run game. This team knew they had to run the ball better. Again, I understand game circumstance plays a role in it, especially in yesterday's blowout defeat, but there is a very clear and obvious correlation between Pittsburgh's, wins whenever they run the ball well and run it effectively and efficiently and when they don't. And when they don't run the ball well, I mean, has this team really won a game when they've not run the ball well in the last 16 games, and maybe the Bills game, I guess, week 1, that's been about it. So this team has to run the ball efficiently and effectively to win football games. That's the bottom line.
Look, yeah, and we said before the season start, the concerns. Ben Roethlisberger's kind of way down that list, and I still believe that. Now, did Ben have a great game on Sunday against the Bengals? Absolutely not. Has Ben thrown some interceptable balls this year? Sure, but you know what they call almost interceptions? They call those incompletions. So you still went through that span of games there where what Ben threw 9 touchdowns and zero interceptions.
Hmm.
Imagine having your defense play good in those games and you having some semblance of a running game to go with it. The Steelers probably, beat the Lions for sure, even without Roethlisberger. And who knows what would happen in that game against the Chargers there for sure. But uh, they do have they. I mean, just Mike Tomlin hit on it, and when he said trench play is what's killing this team right now, and not just on the offensive side of the ball, but the defensive side of football as well too. Now look, the inability when you don't have a running game and then you're still not unable to push the football down the field and get chunk plays that way. I mean, this offense has been living off of it seems like throw short, run long, and they occasionally get away with it. I mean, thank goodness Deontay Johnson is the player that he is because he saved them a little bit so far this season. On big explosive plays, throwing short, running along there. But to me, it starts like Alex said. It starts up front until they get this offensive line squared away. Then it's probably not going to matter.
Yeah, lost the point of attack on both sides of the football yesterday, which has been an all too common theme this season. Mr. Ball says, "Can I get a shout out?" Hey, Mr. Balls, glad you're here. Appreciate you hanging out with us. Let me scroll back up here to the questions. So this is from who was it from? I think Nick was the name. Let me kind of find it here in a moment. Let's see. Nick Bailey says, "What happened to the linebacker we drafted out of Texas A&M? That's fourth round pick Buddy Johnson. He's been inactive for most of the season. Could he get a hat going forward? We'll see, but I would not expect him to start Sunday against the Ravens." Next question comes from Paul Brown. What does this say about Bugs inactive as the only nose tackle? For example, isn't that like starting Derek Watt over Ebron at tight end because you have no faith in Ebron? It says nothing good, I'll tell you that. But Bugs has been such a frustrating player, such an inconsistent player. His assignment, his above the neck play has been super frustrating. For every good play, there's one or two bad ones. So I understand why they did that, but I don't really understand why still, they thought that Daniel Archibong was more worthy of the hat over Isaiah Buggs. Archibong playing 5 total snaps in that game, 3 of those coming on the final drive. It's not making your team any better.
Yeah, you think if you're not going to dress Bug, I mean, if you're even if you're going to bench Bugs in lieu of Archibong, that Archibong going to see the field more than 5 snaps, right?
Right.
Then kind of why do it? I mean, that makes you kind of feel like some sort of message was being sent there, and if that wasn't a message of not enough, them signing how do you pronounce his
I
first
think
name?
Montravius.
Montravius Adams off the Saints Saints practice squad. That's enough of a message for you right there. And as Alex and I said right before we got on this thing, man, they're not going to have a choice but to really fast track Adams into the starting lineup, and you can't really blame them because that's really about the best choice that they have at this point, especially if they don't think Carlos Davis is ready to come off of IR on top of it. So you might see Adams play quite a bit in that base on Sunday against the Ravens.
Yeah, I think you certainly could. You're gonna have to play a lot of base defense against Baltimore. But yeah, it's frustrating. It's disappointing for sure. And this team effectively only played with 4 defensive linemen yesterday, which is not going to do your run defense favors when guys are tired and gassed. And there's a pretty limited rotation of guys that play there. Got more questions. About 10 minutes left between Dave and I, so be sure to get your questions and super chats in because we're pretty backlogged here with a great showing you guys have shown so far. Let's see. Next question comes from K Jackson talking about David Bell out of Purdue, the receiver. Have you watched any David Bell? I've heard some good things, but I have not really watched him or studied him or anything like that. Dave.
I mean, like I don't know, 9 highlights.
Okay.
Maybe on that. Just seems to be a kid that's good with his good body control and makes some amazing catches. I tell you, that little kid at Utah State though, go watch that guy's SM all small, but he is. Obviously the comparisons to him will be kind of like a Tyreek Hill and all like that. That son of a gun, I mean, I think he's like 5'8" or 5'9", but he plays like he's 6'1", goes up and gets the contested balls and those kind of things there. So I mean, obviously, I know a lot about Romeo Dubs because I watch obviously a lot of Nevada football and all like that. But even though I think Romeo Dubs isn't probably going to light it up when it comes to his 40 time. We'll see, but uh, I'll get into more of these wide receivers closer we get into draft time, and obviously you guys are going to the
Right.
Senior Bowl and all like that, so that'll be fun.
Yeah, that will be a lot of fun. K Jackson also says, guys, do you believe that by not addressing the quarterback position over the past 3, 4 years has put us in a position that we are now in with BB, with Big Ben? No, I wouldn't say the past 3, 4 years. I mean, it's they drafted one 3, 4 years ago with Mason Rudolph. So I don't think the idea of taking a first round quarterback in 2018 would have made much sense at all when you were still really primed for a Super Bowl run and strong playoff contention. But I would say that window really opened up last year's draft with the 2021 draft about this is the time to start seriously considering taking a quarterback high. And you didn't in that draft, and I understand that there wasn't one available by the time you picked. You could have potentially traded up for Justin Fields or someone like that, but I understand why they did not take one. So, I'm not going to hold that against them too much, and I'm not going to hold against them the fact they didn't draft one 3, 4 years ago to be the long term heir and replacement to Ben.
Devin Tompkins.
That's a
Tompkins,
Utah
yeah,
State kid.
Devin. Yeah, 5'8", 100. He's listed on the team website as 5'8", 155 pounds. But I
Cool.
promise you, man, you go and you look at this kid's tape and tell me he plays like 5'8", 155. I mean,
Is he more
incredible. Now
physical than that? Like, he's a like a more powerful guy?
I mean, a little bit of power. He takes some walk, man. I've seen him go up and go above the ceiling, make some contested catches, and I mean, he just obviously just runs away from people with his speed on top of it there. So, obviously might be a little bit too small, for the NFL game, but if you have faith that he can take a wallop, then that guy's kind of hard to
Mm,
ignore even at 5'8". But I mean, go turn on his highlight tape. And I normally, me, I'm a measurable guy. You get those wide receivers under 5'10" or whatnot. I
Right.
you know I usually don't bat an eye at him, especially someone if indeed he weighs 155 pounds. But this kid's got my
All
attention
right.
for sure.
I will have to check him out. Nathan says, "Do not be surprised the Steelers rally these last 6 games and get revenge on the Bengals, not the Browns, in the playoffs." All right, that's a big claim, but I hope you're right, Nathan.
Ooh,
Uh,
that's a heck of a point of defense right there. Ooh.
Over under 200 yards rushing for Baltimore. How about 300? Might be the number. I mean, I know their run game hasn't been quite as efficient as it has been in past years with all the injuries they've had at running backs with Justice Hill and J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards, but they're still like what second in football in rush yards per game at a buck 50. So it's hard not to take the over right now with the way the Steelers' run defense has been struggling the way it has. Let's see, a couple more questions here before Dave and I get out here. And again, I apologize, I'm a little under the weather, so I'm speaking worse than usual. Let's see.
I speak worse normally, so no
uh,
apologies for me.
let's see. John Pennington, what do you guys think the final record for this team will be now? That's a good question, John. I haven't thought about it too much. I don't typically do so mid-season. I loathe even doing that before the season begins. There's what? How many games left? Six. 7, 9, and 1. Does that sound about right, Dave?
Ooh, man, I think if they get to 8-1, maybe Mike Tomlin needs a statue for that.
I don't think they're gonna build it. I don't think it might be a hard request on that one.
Yeah, look, I thought they're going to be a 9-8 team at the start of the
Yeah.
season. There, I am off of that now. So 7, I don't know, 9-1 does sound. I don't know how ambitious that might be at this point. Look, I'm already penciling them in for a loss against the Ravens. I don't know
Yeah.
about you, but especially if they don't have one T.J. Watt there. So, whew, yeah, I think I'd have to go with 7, 9-1 right now.
Donald Loudenback, how come it's never Mike Tomlin's fault? I'm not sure where that's coming from. I think Tomlin's gotten plenty of blame for yesterday, and he was on our losers list for hyping up and framing the game rightfully so as a big game against the Bengals, a huge game, a huge rematch opportunity, and for this team to losing is one thing, but losing the way that they lost and coming out so flat is just embarrassing and pathetic, and just we talk about the Steelers way so much. That is not the Steelers way, obviously. So I think Tomlin deserves plenty of blame for what happened yesterday.
Sure. And look, I mean, I the reason I picked him is because I thought really Mike Tomlin would have got the message across, and I really bought into Mike Tomlin kind of hopefully having this team a lot more focused than they were yesterday. Because I mean, AFC North ball, you're already accused of quitting in that first game. You had Watt back, you have Minka. I mean, you didn't have Joe Hayden, but I really thought that they should have won that game. And not only did they not win it, they got embarrassed.
Yeah. UHS Football 54 says appreciate the expertise and effort you guys put into all your breakdowns and analysis. Other podcasts just say everything is fine as the plane falls towards Earth on fire. Gonna be bad for a while. So appreciate the comment there. Yeah, we'll get through it. As ugly as this game was, we always like to, as Dave said, learn and talk about and analyze and break down what happened. We like to learn the why and not just the what. And so that's what we're kind of all about over here at Steelers Depot.
You never have to worry about us speaking our mind and telling you what we really think we see on tape. That's for sure.
For sure, for sure. Couple more questions here before we close things out. C Rex also some nice comments saying thank you guys for what you do. You should get combat pay for this season. Appreciate that. Don't think that's gonna happen. Let's see if we have any more questions here. Looks like we're kind of running out of them, but if you guys want to get in a late super chat or something like that, Dave and I would appreciate that. Again, you can listen to the archive version of this shortly after the stream ends. Also, check it out on SteelersDepot.com. And check out the Terrible Podcast today as well. Have an interview with Ryan Chazier. His new book, Walking Miracle, comes out officially tomorrow. So we talk with Ryan. This is recorded, by the way, prior to the Bengals game. Talk with him for about 20 minutes to discuss his thoughts on the season, his book, and the play of one Devin Bush. So let's see if there's any more questions here from you guys. John Pennington says, who quarterbacks this team next year? Not Ben. I think it'll be a veteran player who is not currently on the roster. So a Mariota, Tyrod Taylor, Brissett, Bridgewater type of player. You may not like that answer. I may not like that answer, but I think that is going to be the answer for next season.
Hey, you definitely. I mean, if it's not Mason Rudolph, then you could really foresee it being that guy. It won't. I'll be surprised if it's a rookie. Once again, I think I'll be surprised if they draft one in the first 2 rounds of quarterback. I mean, you could obviously make an argument that they might see one that they might like to try to develop. Third, fourth, fifth round, what have you there. But I mean, if you're going to draft one that late, then really, why draft one there? So it'll either be, I think, Mason or one of the few names that you mentioned there.
And Jarrell Harris, I apologize, I'm a little coughing attack here, says 12 out of 16 years in the Tomlin era, it's been no playoffs wins or no playoffs at all. So, yeah, I posted last year after the Browns lost how disappointing this last decade has been to not have a, excuse me, to not, I can't finish the sentence. So, but obviously Tomlin in the last 10 years have not been good enough for the Steelers team, and it's been a disappointment for sure.
That's a good point, Alex. You're a trooper for getting through this as long as you have. So why don't you go ahead and shut us down here?
Yeah, we'll wrap things up here. And yeah, if you guys want to listen to the stream, you guys can check it out in a little bit on Steelers Depot. Appreciate you guys listening, and we'll talk to you soon.
Happy holidays, everyone. Thanks for listening. Peace and love.